Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Farmer Corners FC, the French football podcast with the accent, the third episode of season 2 today, and we're going to cover, of course, the weekend of football in Ligue 1. 10 games were played this weekend. We had home wins, which we didn't have in the first week of Ligue 1. We had 34 goals, which is an important tally, and 4 red cards because it is Ligue 1, and that's what the referee do. We're just going to go game by game throughout the 10 games that were played this weekend and talk about how PSG was the one team in the Big Six to actually win, whereas all the other teams that are qualified for European football are actually struggling quite a bit in the beginning of the season 2021-2022. We'll do another episode, or rather I'll write a little article about what's going on in the transfer world in Ligue 1. Of course, we are now 14 days away, from the end of the transfer window for the French market. And no doubt quite a bit is going to happen in these last few days. Of course, nothing as big as Lionel Messi signing to Paris Saint-Germain, which is the big news for Ligue 1 for the season. We're not going to wait any longer. Let's go and talk about those 10 games that were played this weekend in France. We're going to start by Lyon versus Monaco, and a win for Lorient Les Merlus 1-0. The goal scored by Terem Moffi at the 31st minute. And again, we see Monaco dropping points to a weaker team after they drew last week against Nantes. Les Merlus, who are coached by Christophe Pellissier, they played their part beautifully. They scored from the spot kick, at the half-hour mark. Before and after, they just defended. That foul was definitely avoidable by Ismail Jacob, the new defender from Monaco, dragging Terem Moffi's shirts down to the ground. When with VAR, I feel like this day and age, players should know that they're going to get caught whatever happened. But anyway, the Nigerian striker was more than happy to go and get justice himself, and in the meantime opening his tally for the season. Monaco had probably until then the best opportunities. We've seen Bouadou, Volland playing well. Then Ben Yedder, when he came in, also had a couple of opportunities, but not enough to get through Nardi. Bouadou, the new recruit as well, coming from SZ Alkmaar, if I'm not mistaken, shows promising things. Physical striker, strong. A couple of times, taking the time to control the ball in the middle of the box reminded me a little bit of the style of player that DJ Drogba can be. Using his physicality to be able to control the ball and put it down and try and strike as fast as possible. Just lacks a little bit of luck, I guess, right now, and a bit of execution in the last movement to be able to score. Excuse me, I'm losing my English. But it'll probably be good eventually down the season. Lorient, what they did really well this game is winning the battle of the midfield. Fabien Lemoine, the experienced captain, but also Laurent Bergel did really good. It's not every single team that is going to be able to sort of contain Aurélien Tchouaméni. They did that really well. Tchouaméni was next to Jean Lucas in the midfield, and I think Jean Lucas showed that maybe he's still a little bit tender for Ligue 1. He has the potential, on set pieces is pretty amazing, and hard to find maybe a better player than him in Monaco right now. But in the middle of the park, when it counts, when you gotta play physical, when you gotta get in, it might not be there yet, the young Brazilian player. Nubel was always just, I guess, ball to fit. They love to play short passes in defense, Monaco, which sometimes can be a little bit dangerous. But I guess with Alexander Nubel, they found the goalkeeper who was able to do this, and he was able to do that well. Lorient did hit the post in the second half, so they were almost going to win 2-0, but eventually the score stayed where it was. It's impressive, the record that Lorient has right now. They have lost only 5 of their last 21 games, because they were on a good run at the end of the season as well to save themselves from relegation. And they've clinched the very first home win of Ligue 1 this season, because this game was played on Friday night, Saturday morning, of course. For Monaco, it's not great, but it's not all grim either. Earlier this week they've qualified against Sparta Prague for the Champions League playoff, which they're going to play tomorrow morning here, tomorrow night, down in France against Shakhtar Donetsk. It's not going to be easy for Niko Kovac and his men. And you could see clearly that they've already played 4 games. They're going to finish the end of August, the end of the month, playing 8 games, where every other team would have played only 4 games. So it's not easy to get ready so early for that many games, I think, and we're seeing it. Another very good show for Monaco was Strahinja Pavlovic, their new defender, who just arrived from Belgium, if I'm not mistaken, from Club Brugge, and he's shown quite a bit of again, I'm using that word again, but physicality in defense, but also the ability to play with his feet and the ability to get the ball out accurately, which is everything that Niko Kovac wants, really. As far as what Monaco will expect this week, Shakhtar Donetsk, they're coached now by Robert De Zerbi, of course, who was successful, quite successful with Sassuolo the past couple of years. It's not going to be easy for Kovac. It's going to be, the same kind of style of coaches that like to have possession, coaches that like to play with the ball, and it promises to be a pretty interesting game. And Monaco fans somehow think that they're favorites because Shakhtar Donetsk isn't what it used to be, but Shakhtar Donetsk went to the semi-final twice in Europa League in the past 4 years, and they're a team that last year beat Real Madrid home and away in the group stage of the Champions League. So I think it's a team that we shouldn't just brush aside. It's not going to be all easy for Monaco to try and get through to the Champions League group stage. As I said, Monaco is going to have to play those 8 games in the whole of August, which other teams don't have to do, which means that after that, if they qualified or if they don't, they're going to play European games, and same thing, they're going to play every 3 days. So it's a hard treatment, I think, to have, and it shows the importance of finish second versus third in Ligue 1. And I think we sort of touch on it every year. At least French pundits do touch on it every year in Ligue 1, the importance of finishing second instead of third, and Monaco right now is living it. The reason why those extra points that get you to the second place are so important, and why you don't want to lose points early in the season like Monaco is doing right now, unfortunately for them. The next game up is Lille against Nice. Lille, the reigning champions, who are a bit of the shadow of themselves, unfortunately. It was a game where Nice humiliated them at the Stade Pierre-Mauroy, 4-0 win for Nice. Nice, of course, who is coached by Christophe Galtier. Fabien Galtier is a rugby coach. Christophe Galtier, the former Lille coach, who sort of maybe wasn't celebrated in Lille at the end of the season because of COVID and all the restrictions. I mean, there was a bit going on in the streets of Lille, but not at the stadium. And now that he walks back on the stadium with fans, unfortunately for them, he coaches the other team. Galtier did what he had to do. He said it earlier in the press conferences. Coming to Pierre-Mauroy for him wouldn't mean anything. He was going to stay serious. He was going to do whatever it takes to be able to get a result with his team, and he did just that, and he did that pretty well. The final score was 4-0 for Nice in Lille. Dolberg with a brace at the first and the 64th minute. Boudaoui scored at the 5th minute, and Gouiri scored just before halftime on penalty. Whether they're willing to admit it or not, I think both Christophe Galtier and Jocelyn Dovenech had that date marked in their calendar, but also Olivier Létang, the president of LOSC, probably knew when Christophe Galtier was going to visit this week. The coach and his former president sort of exchanged words by media, and Christophe Galtier was asked actually what he thought about Olivier Létang's word when Olivier Létang said that he doesn't remember Christophe Galtier telling him that he wanted to leave Lille until the very end of the season, when he was made public on RMC4, if I'm not mistaken, the TV show, the radio show, excuse me. When asked about that, Christophe Galtier answer was pretty dry, and he basically said that maybe it's time for Olivier Létang to see a new ear doctor. So all good for those two people. Clearly, they're not going to go and have dinner together. But yeah, I'm assuming that they were both expecting, or I guess looking forward to meeting each other again, to see who takes the best out of on the other one, right? And unfortunately for Olivier Létang, it was Galtier. It was always going to be a big game, Lille against Nice, especially when those two teams could only draw last week, and sort of disappointed in what they showed us versus what we expected of them. And unfortunately for Lille, it started, I guess, the worst way possible. 65 seconds in, I can't remember which defender, but a defender from Lille slips, brings out a corner. Gouiri and Kluivert play the corner quickly. It's obvious that they're going to play a short corner, yet no Lille defender go and close them in. Gouiri is able to dribble inside the box. We see Burak Yilmaz coming in and launching himself into a side tackle that could have been a penalty and potentially a card for the striker. But anyway, Gouiri kept running and tried to score from the narrow angle. Jardim was able to beat it away. Unfortunately, beat it away on another Nice player who tried to score, and Jardim saved it again. And then, unfortunately, the third time, Kasper Dolberg was here, and he buried it from point blank range. Surprising to see that Nice was able to get 3 rebounds, and Lille defense, the Lille defense wasn't able to put themselves in the middle of it. But at the end of the day, it's all good for the visitors, right? They kept going. 4 minutes later, Zeki Selik, the right back from Lille, decided to try and dribble next to his own box, did a little bit of a back heel, so Gouiri stealing the ball off his feet. Gouiri gave the ball to Boudaoui, and Boudaoui scored from the edge of the box, a pretty powerful strike that just went straight by the post, and there was nothing that Leo Jardim could do. We say that Lille needs probably a new goalkeeper since Maignan left, because Jardim is not at the level, but as far as those two goals are concerned, he actually did everything they could. What is more worrying, I think, for Lille is basically the lack of organization. Seeing how they pressed, or I guess their lack of press collectively during the whole game, during the first half. Yazici, the poor Turkish midfielder, seemed lost next to Benjamin André, and every time they were pressing, only half of the player were pressing, not the other half. And that brought danger, and at the third goal, which came off a penalty, that's exactly what happened. Nice attacks from the right side. Lille pressed, but not every single player pressed. Yazici is a little bit late to get into it. And then next thing you know, Lille find themselves into the box. I think it was cross. Dolberg heads it on the crossbar. Then Dolberg tried to volley it. It hits the arm of Benjamin André, and it's a penalty given. And Amine Gouiri very happily put that one in the back of the net for his first goal of the season. Lille didn't have Renato Sanchez. Lille didn't have Dzeka, but it's still pretty sad to see how they were playing. You expect a little bit more from the reigning champion. Maybe they're not realizing that wherever they go as the reigning champion. So everyone's going to want their scalp. Everyone's going to want to be able to say this year I beat the reigning champion, because until then he was Paris Saint-Germain, and no one was beating them. So I think they're not realizing the pressure that it comes with being the reigning champion. Of course, once Nice is up 3-0 at halftime, they just defended. They just waited for Lille to come and create some space behind their defense, and then they proceeded in transition. What else would you do? Dolberg almost scored a second goal early on in the second half, but Jardim again did a pretty good save. Unfortunately, at the very, very end of and 10 minutes later, in the second half, and a corner kick. I'm not sure what happened to Jardim on that one, but Dolberg jumped higher than the goalkeeper, despite the goalkeeper using his arm, and headed the ball sort of through the gloves of Jardim, which was the fourth goal of the game. And now, if you look at Lille, best defense last year, conceded 7 goals already in 2 games. They conceded 23 in 38 games last year. I mean, I'm not going to do the math, but clearly, if they score 3.5 goals per game, they're going to be over 100 goals scored by the end of the season, and that's not where we want Lille to be. It's the first time since Monaco visited them in 2017 that they concede 4 at home, and that time Monaco was Mbappe, Falcao, James Rodriguez, etc. It's not the best start for Govenek. I don't know if it's a personal situation because the team is roughly the same as last year, minus Mignon and Soumare. I don't know if it's a lack of motivation, the pressure of being champion, but something just isn't right now for Les Dogs, and something has to be fixed rather quickly because soon enough the Champions League starts and Lille will now play every 3 games, and again will be expected to be the team who upholds the champion standards as high as possible. On this side, the positive, of course, of the game, Galtier, criticized his team pretty much throughout the preseason and said that the team's implications, the team's intensity wasn't hard enough, that they were not just playing to the level of what Ligue 1 players should bring. It changed, clearly the message is passed. This weekend was a dominant performance. We need to talk about that new midfield, Pablo Rosario, who comes from PSV, who's going to be the general of the midfield for Nice. Somebody asked Dante, the captain, if how long would it take Pablo Rosario to become one of the leaders of the team, because he's only 23 years old. And Dante was like, oh, he's already one of the leaders of the team. You can only hear him. He's very hard on himself. He's very hard on the rest of the team. He leads by example, and he just wants to fight hard for 90 minutes. So it's a name that you're going to hear often this season. Remember it, Pablo Rosario. I think Nice clearly has a bright future, as we all knew. Galtier just sort of made a statement, winning 4-0 on the pitch of the reigning champion, of course. We're going to go to the next game, which was Paris Saint-Germain against Strasbourg. I'm going to drink some water because I got a bit to say about the club of the capital. So, of course, it was the game where everyone was presented. It was the first game back at Parc des Princes after the year of COVID. So they obviously took the moment to present all of their new recruits. Leo Messi, of course, the most important of them all, arguably the best player in the world, who's coming to Ligue 1, who's coming to Paris Saint-Germain. We know the circumstances in which he take. I think we have to take a moment to realize how amazing it is for Ligue 1 to have Leo Messi, not necessarily for all that has been sort of said and not said, the TV rights or whatever, but just for players in Ligue 1 to actually play against a player that are the caliber of Leo Messi, because it's not Neymar who rolls and jumps and sort of complains about everything. It's a player that has been at the top of his game for almost 16, 17 years, and who had 7 Ballon d'Or or 6 Ballon d'Or, I can't remember, and who's just one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And now all the players in Ligue 1 are going to be able to see what he does from up close, and the player in Paris Saint-Germain are going to be able to see what he does 24/7. So in that sense, I think that's a very, very big plus for Ligue 1. Of course, we're also presented to the crowds Sergio Ramos, Gigi Donnarumma, Jorginho, Wijnaldum, Achraf Hakimi. It's an XXL recruitment. The signings at PSG this summer are probably as good as it ever gets. It's going to be hard for any team to be able to get any points against Paris Saint-Germain this season. And although they come close, as we're going to see right now, I doubt that anybody will be able to bother Paris Saint-Germain. The score of the game, they won 4-2 against Strasbourg. The goal scorer, Icardi, at the 3rd minute. Ajorc scored an own goal at the 25th. Draxler scored at the 27th. Sarabia scored at the 86th. And then the answer from Strasbourg came from Gamero at the 63rd minute. And Ajorc at the 74th minute. The fans are back at the Parc des Princes. The fans are on fire, even though only 2 of the 5 new recruits are actually playing tonight. The first half is dominated by Paris Saint-Germain. You score within 3 minutes. Mbappe brings 2 goals. There's a 4th goal in the end to Mercure de Gilles. It looks like a good night. It looks like it's all, rainbow and glitter and everything is amazing. Maybe it was in the first half. But then the second half was a cruel reminder of why Paris Saint-Germain lost 8 games last season. For 35 minutes, they just weren't there. For 35 minutes, they weren't marking properly. They weren't making the defensive effort properly. They weren't attacking properly. They just decided to stop playing, which is a bit sad, because Strasbourg is not any team. Strasbourg is the team who likes to push, especially with Julien Stéphan at the helm. It's a team that is not going to say, okay, cool, you're up 3-0, we're just going to roll over and then you can do whatever. It's a team that's going to fight, and they almost made it back after scoring those 2 goals by Gamero and Ajok. I think the way the game panned out is worrying for Paris Saint-Germain. The 2 goals that Strasbourg scores, they're both off a cross on a header. I know Thilo Kehrer is not a starting lineup material for Paris Saint-Germain, but he's supposed to be the replacement, and he's supposed to be good enough to head that ball away. That's all he's supposed to be good at. Kimpembe and Kehrer are good in the air, and yet you have Gamero, who's not the biggest player, not the tallest player in Ligue 1, who's able to head it in, and same for Ajok. But I think besides the football side, I think the night was a little bit stained early on when Mbappe arrived in the stadium, and when throughout the stands you could hear boos and jeers and whistles, and you could hear that basically Mbappe was almost not welcome back at the Parc des Princes, which to me is so odd. I mean, sure, he hasn't re-signed the contract, and it's a problem for some fans, and I can understand it to a degree, where you want your player to be loyal, and you want them to care about your team enough to re-sign the contract. And Mbappe didn't do that yet, at least. Whether it's because he's leaving this season or whether it's leaving at the end of the season, the way I see it, it's his choice. If he just runs out his contract and signs a new contract, it's his choice. I don't think he's the kind of player who's going to, sort of like save his energy or play less good. And if he does, you just put somebody else in. He wants the best contract ever at the end of the season if he stays with Paris Saint-Germain for this season. So he's going to sweat. He's going to put all his sweat and tears into Paris to making sure that he gets a good contract out of it, and that he gets enough, money, enough respect out of his last season at Paris Saint-Germain. So anyway, he was whistled, and I think booing and whistling your best player when you're introducing the other 5 new best players is probably a little bit clumsy. But this is what happened in Paris Saint-Germain. It kind of showed their true colors. It kind of showed, where the football is going. I think we say it sometimes, but we don't realize how much people are sort of disconnected from what's going on in football. They just want their team to win now. They don't care about the long term. They don't care about the middle term. They don't understand, what it would cost Paris Saint-Germain to sign Mbappe right now. There would be another 3 or 4 years where all 3 players, Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, have to share the spotlight. And I'm not sure that's what Mbappe wants. So they complain. They want Mbappe to sign a new contract, but they don't want him to sign a new contract, but they don't want him to go for free. Leave him alone. He knows what he's doing. He's a big boy. If he leaves for free, then too bad for Paris Saint-Germain, but great for what he's brought to the club. Great for reaching the final 2 years ago in Champions League, reaching the semi-final last season. Carrying the team on his shoulders last season. Without him, I don't think there's any Champions League for Paris Saint-Germain. I think they're getting taken over by either Monaco or Lyon. So he's done a lot for the club, and yet boos and jeers, which is sad to see. Anyway, that was my rant. And then back to football. The game, like I said, was 1-4-2 after Paris Saint-Germain was up 3-0 at halftime. Lack of focus, and then conceding 2 goals. But this time they scored the 4th goal. And last season maybe Paris doesn't win that game. Maybe Paris gets a penalty or lose at the end. This season they're winning this game, and it's very important because it shows other fans that other teams, that this season Paris Saint-Germain has their shit together, for lack of a better word, that they're not going to be surprised like they were last season. Last season they start with 2 losses against Lens and Marseille. This season they start with 2 wins. It's a big difference. It's a huge difference for the coach. The pressure sort of releases. It's huge pressure for the players because same thing. You don't want to start the season dropping points the way every other team does. By the way, you want to be able to be at your best level as early as possible. A quick word on Strasbourg. I really enjoyed how they played offensively. Really enjoy what Julien Stéphan is doing up in the northeast. We'll see where that brings them, but I'm a firm believer that if you're a good player, if you work hard, you're going to get your reward. So if Strasbourg keep doing that, I'm sure they'll get their reward eventually. It's a shift of mentality in Ligue 1, though, when I think about what Strasbourg did, because not being afraid to attack after halftime when you're down 3-0 versus Paris Saint-Germain is, I think, not something that a lot of teams are going to do. So it shows that Paris has allowed the team to sort of like grow into themselves and to get the confidence they need to come and challenge them at home, which could fire back pretty badly in the Paris faces. Next game up is Lyon, who was traveling to Angers. And when Lyon traveled to Angers, Lyon was facing their former assistant coach, Gérald Baticle. Gérald Baticle, who was the assistant coach to Rudi Garcia, who was unanimously celebrated for leaving Lyon at the end of last season. By getting Peter Bosz, Lyon thought, that's it. We're going to play football, dynamic, positive, attacking. Everything is solid. We are going to be the team that we're supposed to be. We're going to have the team that we deserve to be, said the supporters. Well, we're not there yet, because when they traveled to Angers, coached by the inexperienced former Lyon assistant coach Gérald Baticle, Lyon got it, and Lyon got it good. They struggled from the beginning. They just show the side of themselves that I'm sure every Lyon fan will be very happy to see. Oussama Aouar had a good game, but he was probably the only one. Defensively, he was poor at best. He was poor. You had a player across, Mohamed Ali Cho, who's formerly of the Everton academy and who spent a bit of time at Paris Saint-Germain when he was younger. He came in, Mohamed Ali Cho, and he ripped apart the Lyon defense. Marcelo at one point tackles him with a second too late, and like I was laughing watching it at home because it's such a silly tackle, but it also showed the fact that Lyon's defense just felt powerless in front of Cho, and were able to stop him. At the end of the day, the 3 points come to Angers. They're one of the 3 teams that is getting 3 points for each game. They're also a team that kind of like deserve to be a bit more around the hot sphere so that we can see how they play football, because right now it looks a little bit like beginner's luck for Gérald Baticle. It's going to be a matter of seeing if he keeps that way or if it was luck and then the team ends up collapsing. As far as the football, so Mohamed Ali Cho, as I discussed, born in 2004, lightning fast winger, lightning quick, sorry, I should say winger, forced Marcelo to that foul that earned him a yellow card, and then kept going, and the goal sort of come from himself. The first goal, he finds Jimmy Cabot on the right wing. Jimmy Cabot's cross looked like he's going nowhere, but then Antonio Lopez is diving to try and stop it. It doesn't stop it. It slows it down, which I think allowed Sofiane Boufal to be able to score into the empty net, unfortunately for Robert. The second goal, don't even know what to say. A ball in behind the defense. Cho puts pressure on Marcelo. Marcelo wants to clear it, or maybe to pass it to Antonio Lopez, or maybe to pass it to the other defender. We don't know. At the end of the day, he passes the ball too far from Antonio Lopez, and the ball ends up into his own nets. On goal, 2-0 for Angers. And now it's becoming hard. It's becoming almost impossible for them to come back. It's at the 53rd minute when that happens. Later on, Ouhani came in for Angers, new player coming from National Ouhani, and unfortunately for Lyon, the third goal wasn't too far. Lopez, did what he could, saved a few balls. Unfortunately, when he came to Ouhani, the first shot from Ouhani hit the post, and Lopez couldn't do anything about it. The second shot just beat the goalkeeper, and then 3-0. Lyon seemed done for the count. They had opportunity to score. Lyon, Dembele tried an acrobatic volley early on. Karl Toko Ekambi, before the first half, find himself away from the goalkeeper and then just has to head it in, and wasn't able to do it. It's not easy for Peter Bosz. I don't know if it's a problem of personal, if it's the players who don't live well together right now, but it's definitely something that they have to look into and they have to fix if they want to be able to get the result that they say they would get this season. The Lyon players, they have Europa League coming up. If they want to make it for Champions League, it looks like you need a couple of changes to make sure that everything is going to be okay. Next game, Reims versus Montpellier. All the goals starting to be scored now. Reims 3, Montpellier 3. The goal scorer Kasama for Reims at the 7th and the 26th minutes, and Kebal at the 82nd. And for Montpellier, Kodza at the 5th minute, Delors at the 38th, and Laborde at the 43rd minute. It's funny, how those games end up being either boring or completely spectacular. The last time Reims and Montpellier play against each other, it was a boring 0-0 back in February, I think. And 6 months later, with two new coaches outside, on each side, it's a thriller. It's a 3-3, something that we didn't expect from Oscar Garcia, something that maybe we expected a little bit from Michel Dezacarian, but not from Garcia, for sure. The first goal came from Nicolas Kodza. Reims was prone to defensive mistake during this game. The first goal is a corner that goes out at the edge of the box. The Montpellier player tried to shoot from across, and the ball was deflected a couple of times. Loose ball in the middle of the 6-yard box. No one able to jump on it, and then Kodza just kicked it in, and 1-0 for Montpellier. They answered very quickly. Reims, Kasama, a minute later, was able to reap the fruits of Hugo Ekitike. Sorry, I'm going to get his name right because he was pretty impressive with us. So Hugo Ekitike dribbled in the middle of the box and then turned around and passed the ball to Kasama for the equalizer for Reims. Kasama didn't need to thank anybody for the second goal. At the edge of the box, a shot, top left corner, nothing Lopez can do. And then Reims was up 2-1. Montpellier wouldn't let that go. They fought back. Delors, the captain, was the first one to hit a header that made it 2-2 just to level everyone. And then a couple of minutes later, should I say, Gaëtan Laborde was the one found at the far post. In the middle of the box, attempting a couple of a scramble, and the ball bounces back and forth, and then Laborde sees the ball, a bit of a desperate back heel. Rajkovic is wrong-footed, and then it's 3-2 for Montpellier. Maybe at that moment they think the game's in the bag. We came back from 2 down, some 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, 3-2. We're on the right mechanic. Of course, it's halftime, but we're going to come back and we're going to be in form. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to score any more time yet. Montpellier, Reims, scored the third goal eventually with. with Keval getting the ball just on the edge of the box following a corner kick. There's like 20 players in front of him. I'm exaggerating, but he's able to shoot through Savanier, through Sacco, through Berto, the goalkeeper, and to level for Reims. It was pretty deserved at the end of the day. That equalizer for Reims with the game that they had done. But for Montpellier, it's a bit sad when you think that they could have taken the 3 points. It's also sad because they've now conceded 52 times in their past 28 games, which is not a stat that any team wants to have. Yet it's what's going on right now at La Payade. For Oscar Garcia, it's a good result with Reims. On the first match day, Reims was the only team unable to shoot on target. This time, it's a good sign. Going from not being able to shoot on target to scoring 3 goals, and hopefully it's going to keep that way. Although we know that they're probably going to fight for survival up until the very end. Next game, Nantes versus Metz, 2-0 for Nantes. Colomboigny opened the score at the 12th minute, and Ludovic Blas scored the second goal at the 49th minute. The struggles to avoid relegation seems pretty far for Nantes, who's bouncing back nicely. A draw against Monaco, a win against Metz, who could be a one of those teams that's a little bit dangerous. The draw against Lille, sorry, not against Monaco. I don't think Monaco. The draw against Lille happened at the very, very last minute, 97th minute to be exact. So it's positive for Nantes what's going on early on this season. And what's even more positive is to see how good their offensive lineup is. Moses Simon, Ludovic Blas, Fabio Didoke on the wing. They're showing their true colors, and it could be good for Nantes. I don't know if it's the bounce back everyone's waiting for, but at least it's not catastrophic. And Comboire seemed that he put this team together nicely. The first goal at the 12th minutes was Moses Simon and Fabio sort of juggling with each other on the side of the pitch on the left wing, and then the cross from Moses Simon found Randall Colomboigny, who was able to score from point blank range. The rest of the first half, they sort of tried to keep pushing, and Nicolas Palois was almost the one scoring a volley, but it was saved by Alexandro Kidja. It'll be funny to see Palois scoring with something else than his head. Anyway, the game started the same way in the second half. The home team not just decided to push, and after 5 minutes, they were able to score. Another cross from Moses Simon, this time a header by, I was going to say Imram Louza, but no, Ludovic Blas. Imram Louza as there for Watford, of course. By Ludovic Blas, the ball seemed pretty high, but Ludovic Blas literally started flying in the air and then headed the ball in the back of the net. Metz tried their best, 65% possession for Metz, which shows that not once they scored, just wanted to stay home and wait for Metz to come to them. But Metz wasn't able to beat or even to get a point in Nantes, something that last year seemed to be the most reasonable things to ask for. It's for Metz it's a bad cycle, and the last 13 games they only had one win, and it was against a team that was already relegated, Brest. It's time for them to wake up in Liga. Next game was the duel of the promoted team, Clermont against Troyes, and the Ligue des Champions Troyes couldn't win that one against Clermont. Clermont won 2-0. The goal scorer, Mohamed Bayo, at the 53rd and the 65th minute. Mohamed Bayo, with 3 goals, is equal with Payet at the top of the goal scoring ladder. The two teams were meeting at the Stade Gabriel Montpied at Clermont for the first ever home game in top tier football for Clermont and the people from Auvergne. Great to see the reaction of the fans and the enthusiasm for Clermont's first game in Ligue 1. I think, more than that, Pascal Gastien was very focused on the game at hand and on how to get the better out of the club of Troyes, which is, as we talked in the past, backed by the City Football Group, who has Manchester City. Speaking of Manchester City, one player is on loan from Manchester City, Issa Kabore, at Troyes, and unfortunately for Laurent Batles, he didn't make the right choice on that day. Issa Kabore, a couple of fouls. The first one, the VAR had to intervene. It was a duel of headers and two head shocked, and for some reason Kabore gets a yellow on that one because the referee says this is an elbow. Sure, the second tackle was pretty silly and pretty unthought for, of course, uncalled for, excuse me, of course, and costed him a red card at the 33rd minute, which is nothing that you want when you're a coach. After that, Clermont just kept pushing. Before that, Clermont already had the best game, the better game, I guess, of the two. And after that, they kept pushing. Gauthier Gallon, the goalkeeper from Troyes, made quite an impression. I think if it's not him, if it's another goalkeeper, it could be 5 or 6-0. But he ended up being 2-0. Both goals came off corners. Like I said, both goals scored by Mohamed Bayo. The first one at the end of the scramble, Bayo just put his left foot. The second half, he came in and cut the ball at the near post with a header to make it 2-0 and to score 3 goals since he started the Liga. A couple of, maybe only one, I should say, funny stat. Clermont are the first team to win both games in top tier football as they just came back from Ligue 2 since Angoulême in 1969. A bit of history there. It's been a while since a team hasn't impressed the way Clermont has impressed in Ligue 1. Next game up, Brest versus Rennes, 1-1. The 2 goals were scored at the very end. Seyrou Guirassy scored first for Rennes at the 84th minute, and Jérémy Le Douaron scored at the 91st minute for Brest. This was the first of many Brittany derbies that we're going to be seeing this season. This one took place at Francis Leblay, where Brest Brest usually hosts their team. It's their home stadium, so that's what they do. The teams had both ended their game last week on 1-1 and another 1-1 this week for them. Bruno Genesio only made one chance to his starting lineup. Eduardo Camavinga, the star teenager, came out, and Jérémy Doku, the other star teenager, came in. So there's worse problem to have when you are Bruno Genesio. Rennes took the best start. Rennes annihilated Brest in the first 20 minutes. I think it's a stupid number. Let me find it. 78% ball possession for Rennes in the first 20 minutes. And nothing that they could do. Rennes should have scored. Jérémy Doku gets the ball in the middle of the 6-yard box and somehow puts it wide when it's just in front of the goalkeeper. But anyway, it took that long for Brest to wake up. Then slowly they wake up. Honora has a chance. Mounier has a chance. They aren't able to score. And then Alfred Gomis actually had an okay game for Rennes. We don't know if he's going to be the goalkeeper at Rennes for the whole season, but he had a good show for himself yesterday. Another one who was okay yesterday was Marco Bizot, the new Belgian goalkeeper from Brest, who's replacing Larsonneur. Larsonneur left on the bench for 2 games now, which is a little bit surprising given he's the future of French football, supposedly, Gaëtan Larsonneur. I think it's a little bit of a Michel Derzakarian telling him, if you want to play, you're going to have to be the best. And he's not there yet, Gauthier Larsonneur. Anyway, Bizot showed how good it was against his countrymen. Jérémy Doku came 1v1 in front of him, and Bizot's way to come out and to clear the ball was one to show into the goalkeeping schools. Besides that, I think the best opportunity were probably on the other side for Brest. Mounier has a couple of opportunities, one especially where he volleys the ball, Alfred Gomis saves it, the ball gets back on Mounier and very casually sort of hits it for the exterior of the boot, and unfortunately blazed it above the crossbar, which could have been the first goal. They kept going, I think, both teams, and then finally The substitutes made the difference. Serhou Guirassy comes in at the 75th minute, and Le Doiron comes in at the 81st minute, if I'm not mistaken. And at the 83rd minute, the first goal is scored. Both goals are very similar. Cross coming from the left for Rennes, which was Birger Milling crossing it, and then the header from Guirassy that left no chance to Bizot, and then in the dying seconds, in the injury time actually, the cross came from the right for Le Doiron, and his header had a bit more power, and also that got the best of Alfred Gomis, the Rennes goalkeeper. For Brest, it's a good result, getting a draw at home against Rennes, especially when you're down 1-0 with 5 minutes left to play. It's also a nice little training before the game next week. Brest, there's a chance that they're going to be the guinea pigs for Ligue 1 because they're hosting Paris Saint-Germain next week, and it could be the first minute where we see Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar playing together. Let's see if the players are back in form, but that promises to be exciting to follow. Next game up, Lens against Saint-Etienne, 2-2 the final score. Ganago and Fofana scoring for Lens at the 36th and the 77th minutes. And for Saint-Etienne, Wabi Kazri scored at the very first minute, and Bouanza scored at the 52nd minute. Two teams in French football that have a rich history. We're matching at the Stade Bollard de Lille. Again, the Stade Bollard, one of those stadiums that is great for fans, one of the stadiums that's the loudest and where the fans are the most praised in France. Unfortunately for them, for as loud as they were, they got caught pretty cold. The kickoff happens, the ball goes into the Lenses defense, goes out, throw in by Klose. Miscommunication in the defense. They let the ball go. Bouanga just pushes it. Amouma pushes it to Kazri, and then Kazri score from me with his left foot straight away. So like 65 seconds in, not even, maybe 30 seconds in, I should say. And it's 1-0 for Saint-Etienne, and now you're training at home. It was actually a very good game, a very, very intense game. Teams going back and forth, attacking, whether it's Franck Hez or Claude Puel. Clearly they wanted to get that result and they wanted to get that win. A few opportunities both sides. Ganago, he was the first to answer to Kazri, but wasn't really able to. Unfortunately for Lens, eventually Ganago does score a header. He cuts the ball just before the near post and sort of glances it and finds the other opposite side net, which nothing that Etienne Green can do on that one. They tried to score again quickly, Lens, but weren't able to. And then the break came, and it's 1-1 at the break. In the second half, they start the same way to the chain. They start all guns blazing. They go out at Lens straight away. They try and prevent the ball from basically getting into the feet of Fofana so that they can be distributed to Kakuta and Ganago, which is what you have to do when you play against Lens. They do that well very early on. Bouanga in the back of the defense is found after 6 minutes in the second half. A couple of dribbles and a shoot in the near post that sort of almost got through Leka's gloves to make it 2-1. Unfortunately for Lens, 2-1 for Saint-Etienne, and Saint-Etienne decided to come down and defend low and try and drop and make sure that they keep the score. They were almost going to make it 3-1. Saint-Etienne, unfortunately for Bouanga, he finds himself in front of Leka. He shoots the ball, sort of go between Leka's legs, but backed on Bouanga, and Bouanga tried to put it in the back of the net. And Christopher Wu, the young defender, was on his line and was able to save his team from what would look like a sure defeat. But then that's when Saint-Etienne starts answering slowly. Lens start answering slowly. And it's the captain, Seko Fofana, who equalized for Lens. After a pass, I'm going to have to say his name because I feel like I'm going to hear his name often this season. After a pass from Premislo, I'm going to have to ask my Polish friends how we pronounce his name. Premislo Frankowski, I'm comfortable with, but his first name sounds to be Premislo. Premislo, Frankowski who used to play in MLS, if the American viewers know who he is, has the ball onto the left wing, a cutback pass, and Seko Fofana from the edge of the box swerve the ball around and doesn't leave Etienne Green a chance. Lens actually could have scored another one. Etienne Green had to do a couple of saves in injury time, a shot from Fofana from long range, and a shot from Cheikh Doucouré from long range as well. Almost gave the win to our Sang et Or. It's going to be a big game for both teams next week, although they're playing against teams that have been struggling recently. Saint-Etienne will be hosting reigning champions Lille, who, as we talked about, isn't having the best start of the season. And Lens will be traveling to Monaco after Monaco, like we said, plays Shakhtar in midweek. The next and the last game was Marseille against Bordeaux. And Marseille and Bordeaux finished the game 2-2. The goal scorer for Marseille, Cengiz Under at the 34th minute, and Dimitri Payet at the 41st minute, the same goalkeeper as last week in Montpellier. And for Bordeaux, Pembele and Oudin scored at the 51st and the 57th minutes. The goal scoring time says it all. The first week was Marseille's, the second week was Bordeaux. Another classic of Ligue 1, after Saint-Etienne Lens, you had Marseille Bordeaux. At the Stade Vélodrome, 50,000 fans at the Stade Vélodrome present to support Sampaoli and his men. And it started well. I think Bordeaux was probably expecting Sempa ball to happen in the first half, so they played a rather defensive setup, 5 defenders, waiting for Marseille to come, and Marseille basically almost was unable to get close to Benoit Costil. I think the only offensive that is worth mentioning before the goal is when Conrad de la Fuente ran into the box, and it looks like there's a foul. The referee doesn't look at the VAR, doesn't give the penalty. From other accounts, it definitely should have been a penalty. But anyway, it wasn't given. But Marseille had the ball, but wasn't as impressive as they had been against Montpellier, wasn't able to find space in behind the defense. And mind you, that's because Bordeaux was playing, was parking the bus and playing into their own box, which is always going to be hard for Marseille as long as they play without a striker. And right now they play without a striker. I think it was either Payet or Gerson in number 9, which is obviously not their position. Anyway, the first goal came off Conrad de la Fuente again, the young American winger, going towards his left wing, saw Gerson into the box, gave him the ball behind the defense. Gerson was able to cross the ball, and the volley from Cengiz Under was a bit too powerful for Costil to be able to do anything. 10 minutes later, a bit less, maybe 6 minutes later, Payet ran into in the midfield. No one really stops him. He's able to go laterally across the edge of the box and then tries to shoot into the near post in between the legs of the defenders, which probably got Costil a little bit fired up after the goal. And it's 2-0 for Marseille. And that's how we got to the halftime. Which at that point it looks like Marseille has won the game because Bordeaux hasn't shown anything, and we know how Marseille can keep being creative and the intensity that they can bring into the game. Yet they got surprised. Second half starts. A new player comes in from Bordeaux, Timothy Pembele, who is on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. So clearly, maybe he had the extra motivation to do well in Marseille. As soon as he came in and he took the right wing, somehow, for some reason, Conrad de la Fuente stopped defending on him. And so he has one opportunity to go into the box and no one stopped him. And then on the second opportunity, from the edge of the box, he tries to shoot. Luan Perez deflects it, and then Mandanda can't stop it. Poor Luan Perez. Last week, he deflects a ball into goal, and this week, he did the same thing. 5 minutes later, a corner kick for Tomas Basic. Corner kick that was clearly, done at training. And no one from Marseille sees that Rémi Oudin is by himself at the edge of the box. The ball goes all the way through him. Oudin volleys it. Have you seen so many times in corner kick, that corner goes to the edge of the box and the volley straight away. And there's so many people in the box that it always gets deflected. This time it doesn't. Mind you, it's not the most powerful volley I've ever seen, and it wasn't that far from Mandanda. So I'm not sure how Mandanda didn't save it, but they didn't. And now it was 2-2, and Bordeaux was on fire, and we're trying to score the third goal, and could have, to be honest, because Marseille just didn't react, weren't able to go forward. They got Benedetto in They got Radonjic in, and they weren't able to bring the danger up front and to worry Costil anymore until the end of the game. Bordeaux, if anything, had a couple of opportunities and almost got the third goal. Of course, a red card was given to Balerdi during that game, who got a red card for a clumsy tackle, but a clumsy tackle that shouldn't have happened because clearly he's going to the ball the wrong way, and then his foot slips on top of the ball and he ends up being studs forward in the leg of the player. But clearly not a very smart move, and it's not the first time Balerdi gets red carded like this. So we'll see what the consequences are. I didn't mention it, of course, sorry, but during this game there was a bit of a scare at the beginning. Samuel Kalou, the striker from Bordeaux, 5 minutes into the game, dangerous free kick for Payet, 25 meters away from the goal, and then you see Kalou, who's in the wall, just collapsing for no reason in the middle of the pitch. And you have you remember what happened to Christian Eriksen. So the whole 22 players sort of freaked out, and the doctors came in really quickly, and the players got around Kalou so nobody could see anything, and then he recovered straight away. So apparently it was a heat stroke or something like this, just a little short loss of consciousness, and then he stood back up, and then he wanted to play again, and he played again for 5-10 minutes before he got subbed out, probably for safety reasons, because if something happened after that, then what do you do? But yeah, thankfully he's okay, Samuel Kalou, but it was a little bit scary to see 5 minutes in a player collapsing with everything that's happening in football these days. It's the last thing that you want. Anyway, at the end of the day, 2-2 is the final score between Marseille and Bordeaux, and Marseille will regret not to be able to keep the 3 points after being up 2-0 at halftime, but that's what happened last week in Montpellier. Montpellier were up 2-0 and Marseille won 3-2, so I guess they got paid for what happened last week. That was the 10 games in Ligue 1 this weekend. A quick look at what's happening next week. The first game of the weekend will be Brest against Paris Saint-Germain on Friday night or Saturday morning here. And we have Monaco, Lens, Saint-Etienne, Lille, Lyon against Clermont, who's at the top of the table right now, Montpellier against Lorient, Bordeaux against Angers, Strasbourg, Troyes, Metz, Reims, Rennes, Nantes, and we'll close with the derby of the South between Nice and Marseille. On the table, only 3 teams have won both games: Angers, Clermont, and Paris Saint-Germain. It's a pretty funny table to see. And at the bottom, 2 teams are with 0 points: Troyes and Strasbourg, but with the football that they've offered in the first and the second game week, I'll be surprised if it stays that way. What's a bit more surprising are the teams that have 1 point: Montpellier, Monaco, Metz, Bordeaux, Lyon, and Lille, all with only a point in 2 games. Not the start that you expected from all of those teams, to be honest. The goal scorer Dimitri Payet and Mohamed Bayo have scored 3 goals each, and Moses Simon with 3 assists is leading the assists ladder. Thank you for tuning in for Farmers Corners FC Season 2, Episode 3. Thanks for following. It's the anniversary episode. I started Farmers Corners FC exactly a year ago. At least that's what Twitter told me. So, thanks again for following, and thanks for being along with the ride. I'm sure you like the music more than you like the actual pod, but I will make sure to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it, so there's no reason to stop. Thanks for following Ligue 1. Looking forward to talking about maybe what will be Messi's first minutes on French football pitches next weekend. Allez, bye-bye. Thank you.